to start working and putting in the work on the elimination of fear. The thing that is stopping everyone is fear. The fear that most stops people is the fear of other people's judgments, more than the fear of not having money, which is like profoundly interesting, because one, money has a level of practicality, the other one is a boogeyman. So to answer your question, whether it is therapy, which I think is profoundly effective for so many people, but has a cost associated with it, whether it is the limitation, this is a big one, this is a favorite of mine, because it's working. Got a text last night, I won't use last name, Rachel, big shout out to you, I love your text at midnight last night. She pointed to a piece of content that touches on what I'm about to say, and it's changed her life. Whether it is the limitation of the people around you that you love that bring negativity on the hour, every day, every week, every year. Not the cutting out, not calling mom and saying, fuck you mom, you're negative, I'm never talking to you again. No, instead of talking to your negative mom twice a day, you talk to her once every 2 weeks. The limitation, because cutting is not practical. If your brother is the single most negative energy in your life, it's unlikely that you're gonna sit here, hear me say this, and never talk to your brother again, nor is it right. The limitation gets you to a stable place, which then allows you to go back to that person on offense and try to get them into a good place. The cutting out forever does nothing. You stalemated. The continuation of consuming it at the scale you're consuming it does nothing, because you're not getting to a sound place yourself to be able to help them. The limitation, limiting the energy that you're taking from your loved ones or closest people on negativity is a massive way to get to where you want, that you just asked. Health on the physical side, exercise, eating better is a driver to people getting there as well. And then my favorite, which is when you limit number 2, the negative, and you expand the positive. Putting positivity in your ears is a massive game. Just like the negativity that was put in your head by your parents, by your teachers, by your best friends, by your significant other, by your husband, by your wife, by your boyfriend, by your girlfriend, by your 2 coworkers that also hate their job. When you convert that to limitation and create the capacity for 30, 40, 50% more positive, bring in positive. Notice that a lot of popular voices are just pulling more negativity on the other side. That's not gonna get you there. You having negativity and then you deciding to deploy negativity isn't solving the problem. It's a short-term good feeling of like, you're not getting punched anymore, but you're punching down. Okay, but what about but what about having a healthy conversation that stops the punching on either side? So, my brother, it's about eliminating fear. The way you eliminate fear is by putting in the work. Therapy, exercise, meditation. There's like a lot of different ways to actually get there. Spirituality is exploding because it's one of the ways, right? Spirituality amongst young males, unheard of when we were coming up the game. So 25 years ago, a dude talking, maybe a far-fetched hippie somewhere. Now it's mainstream, people talking about spirituality, it's wonderful. And this is an East meets West game, right? This is good, I see mentality hitting a level of purple that politics isn't. I think we're starting to take stuff from India, from a Buddhist, from a Asian, from a Eastern European, like the stuff that some of the people in my life are doing around grounding. These are things my great grandma used to tell me. She's like, go outside and take your shoes off and walk on the grass. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Or put onions on your feet. Everything's from your feet. I'm like, onions on my feet? Like all this weird stuff that seemed like I was like embarrassed because like no American friend, they were just taking medicine and like go to the doctor, and my family's like, eat this like thing we just pulled out from the crowd. I'm like, grandma, now this is becoming something that people are starting to talk about again. I like this. I think we're finding the middle, and I think for everyone who's listening, find the middle. And that middle is, you can't be delusional, but this cynicism and negativity is just not working for anyone. You tearing down others because you feel suppressed is not going to work.
Love is the absolute remedy to all fear.
I always say love is undefeated.
100%.
It just might be losing at halftime.
Yes.
And that's what's happening right now. Love's losing in halftime right now. Love was losing in halftime in the 60s. Like, it ebbs and flows. Love is just losing at halftime right now. But I don't think it's fucking hippie. I think it's the most practical shit on earth.
Hey. So I work with a lot of young men, especially. And for a lot of them, a very common theme that I see is that they don't have practical access to actionable love in their life. And so it's almost like the fear wins by default at that
Correct.
point. So what's your advice to those people, to young people, men and women both? I personally work with more men, but I'm sure women feel it too.
Everyone feels it.
And when it comes to being a young person, you don't have like a great family, you don't have a lot of supportive people around you.
Find your family.
Garyvee.
Find your fucking family.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's why we love Friends so much.
Yeah.
You pick those fuckers. You picked them. I didn't pick my brother and sister, though I'm very lucky because I love them both, but and I have a great sitch, but I know a lot of people that don't. Like, we pick our friends. And by the way, shit changes too. I love loyalty. Do you know how much I love loyalty? I fucking love loyalty. I'm still a Jets and Knicks fan.
Hey.
I fuck with loyalty. But if your friend changes and you've given everything you got, limiting that is okay too. It's fighting for love, it's fighting for positivity, and it's putting that on a pedestal over any other attribute. People will put loyalty above positivity and love. And I love it because I respect it. It's like such a beautiful, right? I think we all fuck with people that are loyal. But if you're loyal and you don't realize you're the alpha, you're the beta, and your loyalty is continuing to drive you into negativity because you're being loyal to a negative energy, you're not being loyal, you're being an enabler to bad behavior. Do you know how many people right now think they're being loyal, but what they actually are enablers to toxic behavior?
Well, I think that's that
You're
middle
enabling your sister to continue to complain. If you stop letting her complain, shit will change. The next DM you get that's really nasty, like fuck you for saying that, I'm unfollowed. No bullshit. Audio, reply in DM and be like, hey, Johnny, I get it. And like, fuck the world, right? Like, because don't forget, this person loved you at some point or liked you at some point.
Yeah,
or
followed you.
Followed you, right? Hey, I get it. And like, I get it. Like, it's acknowledging that everyone gets it. Hey, I get it. Like, I'm sorry to see you go. I respect that. I wish you nothing but good on your future trails. I just want you to know that I saw this and I appreciate that you ever followed me or that you ever got value from my drawings, and I wish you well. I'm telling you, that's a big deal. And it will work for you. And of course, I'm sure you could be, this makes sense. I'm saying this for the hundreds of thousands that are listening in this short window and the millions over the next years. It will be good and you'll like it and it's good. And you'll leave a good deposit for yourself and the world.
It like humanizes you too, because then you're not just like, they comment and not thinking that you're just like an anonymous person.
No, yeah, I comment.
I feel like they're
respect
just
that.
like,
Sometimes with some of the negativity, I like go like paragraphs of like where I'm coming from,
No,
just so they
Real quick on that, that's where I like, notice how I said audio versus written word? The other thing, the other thing I've learned is good for everybody. Audio allows you to create tone.
Yeah.
Written word, if the person's in a bad place, they're gonna read it in a very different voice than you wrote it in. Remember, what's dangerous about the written word is the person is actually reading it in their mindset, not in your intended volume and nuance.
I had that with someone that one of my team members, and she would bring in emails. She's like, "Can you believe they emailed me this?" I'm like, read it like you're happy and you're joyful.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh wait, yeah, it's not that bad."
It's like, hope you have a good
day.
How dare they?
That's really like why I like audio and video.
Yeah.
I do it
No,
a
I
lot
love that.
with my company. We had an interesting meeting yesterday with all 2,000 employees where I had to talk about like something that's not going well in the company, where people are kind of doing the wrong thing. But I knew if I sent it as an email, people would be scared and it would become this thing. And I knew if I could do it on video in real time, that I could impose my intent and my energy, which I think made it land 10,000 times better. So for all the leaders here, before you send a group email to your 15 employees, your 9 employees, your 17 employees, all your customers, consider a video or audio, because you might be able to get your point across dramatically better because it has the nuances versus you being at the vulnerability of where that person is in their mind at the time of reading. And again, back to the anxiety in the world. 15 years ago, the email was less scary. There's more people on tilt and anxious today and looking for a gotcha and all that. And so the written word is more vulnerable today than ever before for people that are trying to communicate certain things. So keep that in mind. I think you protect yourself by having a strong mental foundation, right? Like vulnerability of protection, like growing, winning, having things happen the way you want, starts at home. And at home, I don't mean in your 4 walls, I mean in your brain. You have a sense of who you are you strong? What's your level of confidence versus your insecurity? Are you a person that likes to judge as escapism from your own pain because you judge your own self? So, I think before we get into any level of tactics, it starts upstairs. And, I feel like women entrepreneurs are extremely strong at speaking about vulnerability and speaking to topics that are meaningful. I think men try to posture. They struggle with that level. But I think a lot of female entrepreneurs have a head start. I speak to so many female entrepreneurs who will spend a lot of time and energy explaining to me why men entrepreneurs have it easier. But it's really ironic because I believe that emotional strength and emotional work is really the game of how this all works in the end. I think the level of conversation on the female entrepreneur sector tends to skew better and higher, and the frequency of the conversations are deeper and more thoughtful. And I actually think that, sometimes that for some people, they think that they're wasting too much time or energy on that, but I think that's the actual work. And so what I would say is a continuation of path of really feeling confident, which speaks to cutting out the cavities of insecurity. People have to work on tuning out those voices while equally respecting that they may have value. There's a really fine balance of taking in advice, but not making it like gospel, right? For example, I do this with negative comments. Negative comments, I don't dismiss as trolls or haters. I try to take in, is there any truth to the observation, and try to take the good from it. I can separate the venom that it's delivered with often and try to see if there's any truth. Same thing I do with positive, when people put a goat emoji, do I think I'm the greatest of all time? I don't. I aspire to, but I don't take it in and I try to preserve my humility the same way that I try to preserve my sanity and confidence and joy and lack of anxiety. And so, I think you have to take in what those voices are saying, but you can't fully internalize them. You have to decide if you agree or disagree. But if you agree, you act on them. And if you don't agree, you articulate to why you don't. But you don't do it in an abrupt way. Hey, I built this before you were here. I don't need your shit. I just needed your money. People have to find ways to communicate with class. We've gotten into this place in society where we communicate so poorly because politicians have showed us the way. And now it's trickled into day to day. I tell people to really find a way to communicate with class.
I love that. Thank you. I always say, just live an integrous life. So
yeah, it's
no matter what you do.
Yeah, that's right. Be as nice as you can. Why not? Explain to me why not. Because they hurt my feelings. Well, guess what? If they hurt your feelings, they're probably hurting. Maybe you can deploy some compassion or empathy, like the wine you're drinking.
Yeah, I was just going to say, why not?
Why not? Why not deploy some empathy? And so, I think that people need to really get within their head and figure this stuff out. Again, so many of you watch my content, only as good as your last at bat, chip on the shoulder. I would say that I'm wired, I'm curious I'm surprised how much I like sticking it to the mark. I'm very competitive. Do you find yourself competitive?
You have to be. Naturally.
To me, I've talked a lot about loving to lose. I do. For some reason, Stefan, you know this when we play basketball in the morning, when I lose, I'm weird. I like it. I have this, there's a feeling that I want to, it motivates me so much. I truly believe that the thing that separates so many people is people are scared of the no and the loss. They think it's a scarlet letter, and what that does is it makes them not go. I love the way he said, when I get no's, I push through. For me, my early childhood, to answer you directly, because two guys that like to philosophize, I'll go right into it. My early childhood was probably my biggest adversity. I didn't have the same adversity of being a minority or gender or things of that nature. I didn't have a whole lot of money, but the big thing that I had was I was getting D's and F's. So I was making $3,000 a weekend selling baseball cards in the malls of New Jersey. Wow. But I was getting D's and F's as a 13, 14-year-old, and everybody thought I was a loser. My teachers, my friends' parents, because that's when school was the game. And so for me, the market, the world was telling me I wasn't good, and everything inside of me told me I was gonna be good. I don't think you can win unless you love yourself first. And so I think you're right about it being a one-on-one game inside your own dome. And so for me, my adversity was early on because once I hit the market, once my entrepreneurial flair came out, my first year of running my dad's business, I grew it substantially. It was over before it started. So, adversity, I think the thing that's most interesting to me is if this company doesn't do well next year, if my next 5 investments don't do well, if my next prediction is that, blah, blah, blah is gonna be huge and it isn't, well then I'm not as good anymore. I'm fascinated by the music industry. 3-4 good albums in a row, iconic set, 1 bad album, it's amazing. You're just as good as your last at bat.
That's right. I mean, think about it. I mean, in our business, we say 10 million is a championship ring, right?
Okay.
So so to be able to sell 10 million a few times and to do it for different people, right?
Yes.
Not yourself.
Yes.
So, because this is another thing. Okay, cool, you can make money, but can you make other people money? Because the key is, if you can make other people money, you create social entrepreneurship.
That's right.
And from
Scale.
That's right. And then, so for me, that's definitely part of, so for me in my business, I remember when we did this score, I got scared after we sold 10 million. Because I said, no disrespect to Menudo. or like, no, I'm not dissing. I love Menudo, New Kids on the Block. I love them because they're watching it.
Yep.
I love them. But I was like, holy shit, like we're a pop group now. I disappeared, man. Got an apartment on 66th Street and 3rd. And I was like in a small room. And I was like, I have this thing called the Carnival. And I was like, I have to do this thing. And I was like, it's artsy, I have to do this thing. And then from there, God landed me Destiny Child, Beyonce and them, right? Somebody was like, yo, we love the Carnival. There's these 4 girls in the hotel room, and we need you to just go see them. And then I went to this hotel room.
Let me ask you a question about that hotel room. Was that a moment where you just understand immediately, did you immediately understand Beyonce had real big time talent, or did that develop, just for you, some people, I'm just curious how, story time.
I think for me, I have a knack, like Lauren as a kid, 14, 15.
She's from Maplewood?
Yeah, Maplewood, New Jersey, Columbia, right? So I get this gift from the church though. It's like purely, and the church called me the choir director. I can find a singer in 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, this is the singer that's gonna sing lead. So definitely when I first saw Beyonce, I was like, wow, right? Mm-hmm. What do I remember about Beyonce the most? I'll tell you. And she watching, she know.
Thanks for watching, B.
Yeah, every, and this is like, this taking me back, right? So Destiny Child was opening up for me.
Is that right?
Right? Watch this. But every time Destiny Child got off the stage and I went on, Beyonce was always on the side studying the show. Now people be like, man, why is she so invincible? She's so invincible because she's a student of the game.
She put in the work.
Right? So this is another thing when we talk about so for me, when I show up, it's not about what I'm doing. I want to know what you doing.
It's
right.
It's actually what I do for a living is actually only predicated on watching what other people are doing to figure out what they're gonna do next.
Losing.
Smash. I think falling in love with micro losing is what makes you the ultimate winner. I think people fear losing in front of others. I'm the complete other way. I like losing in front of others. My whole childhood, I would cry the second I would lose in front of others. I like it. I think learning how to lose is the fucking foundation. I think demonizing losing to kids, 8th place trophies, keeping them away from it, fighting with teachers to get a higher grade, yelling at coaches, all of that shit fucked everybody up. Giving without expectation, super easy for me. Being vulnerable and asking for help, impossible. Real weakness of mine. I struggle with that question. The truth is, it's really hard. I was so trained, as a first generation immigrant where my mom's like, you take care of your sister at 4. So I'm like, all right, I'm a fucking 4-year-old and I'm in work mode, right? My dad's not around, I'm my mom's partner in crime. I start working at 14. I become the financial impact on my whole family at 18. I don't really have like the capacity or like the training to understand how to ask for help, nor the other so you've got all that framework. Here's the more complicated part. The truth is, I'm uncomfortably simple. Like, something that I think would surprise you if you really, really knew me is how detached I am from my own success. It's really weird to me. Like, I'm almost like, what the fuck? Like, I don't really get validation or affirmation from my career. That's why I called it Be Friends. I like am more in tune with getting like validation from like being a nice person and building friends than I do of like making money or this and that. Like, so like, it's weird. Like, I'm trying to push myself, right? I've learned to be better at candor. Spoke about that in the book that some of you have a lot of copies of. And the thing I'm trying to be better at is being vulnerable and asking for help. But the truth is, like, where I'm getting caught up is it's just good for me. Meaning, like, it's simple. Like, I'm not overly struggling with anything. Like the thing that makes me the happiest is for you to be happy. You know, like, honestly, like, what can you do for me? Buy and sell Be Friends when you want to, not based on anything I do. Right? You be accountable to you. I'm out here doing my thing. You do you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, simplicity, but it's very sweet of you. I'm very grateful for that question. Honestly, like, listen to what I'm saying in my content. You wanna make me happy? Go act on the shit that I'm talking about, because everybody here would be a lot happier. What I would tell you, brother, is you gotta stay consistent down the line and realize sometimes it's gonna go well and sometimes it's not. And like, what I did poorly was I didn't tell people feedback and then I surprised them, even though they sucked, and I blamed it on them for not being self-aware, but it was my fault. My advice is to really find your balance of giving people feedback, and then, you know, to me, what we're trying to do at Vayner, what I'm trying to do is like, the third time I'm giving feedback, I'm like, hey, like, I'm gonna really need to see a change. Or like, this may not end up like really setting up like, hey, if we're gonna talk a fourth time, this is probably gonna, and so like, people are not as surprised anymore, and it's really been healthy for us. It's stunning how much this was a weakness of mine. My personal life failures, my professional life failures, the candor has been an issue. The learning is stay consistent. Some things are gonna work out, but if you stay consistent, they'll all come back to you in a good way. Yeah, don't have a kind candor firing without feedback before you did it. Think of like, I know baseball's not big in this country, but like, think of it as 3 strikes, you're out, right? Have the first talk and be like, hey, there's some stuff going on. Everybody you work with doesn't like you. And that can't be all of their faults. Let's talk about it. Most people are gonna be defensive. Oh, you don't fucking know, Rick and Sally and Junior are terrible. I'm like, okay. A couple months later, I'm like, well, Rick, Junior and Sally don't work for you anymore, and Carol, Susie, and Juan think you're a piece of shit too. So we got a problem here. You know what I mean? You start building, so that. Why kind candor is important is if you're just kind and not candorous with family, there's a very big chance that you can end up resenting him. If he's not good and you just carry him because he's your nephew, you're gonna build resentment. And I've worked with family my whole life, both my brother-in-laws, my brother, my dad, respect. You know, I think a couple things. One, candor is gonna matter because you gotta be careful. You know, right now he's crushing what he's doing, but you know, you guys are both gonna keep growing. And we all, me included, we all have ceilings. And so candor matters. I think the other thing is, the thing that has worked for me is I just don't value the money more than a family. My brother and my dad got way more value out of our relationships than I did financially. And there's parts of it that I have resentment for, but I realized in my older age that was because I couldn't communicate. If I said something, maybe they would have adjusted, but I didn't, right? And so over communicating, not valuing the dollar more than the relationship, and realizing, and here's the big one, and I always knew this, and it happened. By the way, I don't work with either of my brother or my dad in a real way right now, right? I always knew that it didn't have to be forever, and that there was a gracious way for it to stop. And so you guys might work together for 17 glorious years, but maybe then he wants to do something, you know, like you might want to do different things. So I would say that family over money. Gotta find a way to communicate in case there's, resentment. And knowing that it doesn't have to be forever. I think a lot of times when people think family, it's like blood for life. But like, you're both very young. Really, no bullshit. I love you so much. I'll tell you why. You're taking control. Even saying that out loud in front of us, you're subconsciously doing the right stuff. I'm proud of you. You have to understand, everything good is when you put it into the light. You just talked in front of 50 fucking people about your concern about it, which means you're in control or in the process of being in control of it. When I started talking about kind can't, a lot of you followed me for a long time. There's no candor talk prior to the book. Once I started talking about it, I was like, aha, got you. You understand? Everything every person here is scared about: weight, hair, age, income, relationship, a skeleton in your closet. The second you put that motherfucker into the world, you got control. Every second that you're keeping it in some sort of closet, it's got control. The answer to your question is, you've already won. You just gotta go through the motions. You just put it out, you're already there, It's really good. I'm really happy for you. Like I do that a lot, what you just did. And it's powerful, It's 8 Mile, Eminem. If you put out the comment about your lines, nobody else can put out the comment about your lines. I'm proud of you. It's really good. And I hope I'm really happy that you did it, because it allowed me to talk for the last 2 minutes about it. And I know every single person here has got something, because we're humans. We all got something. We really do. And some of it's small and petty and silly and you're dealing with it very easily. But if you're dealing with something that's really bothering you, fucking make that video.